How does a novel written by a teenager actually become this cultural touchstone? Something that changes how a whole generation thinks about class and conflict.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The Outsiders. It's not just a story.
No, it's definitely more. It feels like a carefully built argument, really. An argument for empathy.
Wrapped in a story that kind of grabs you and doesn't let go. It doesn't just summarize a problem. It seems to actively engage with it through the narrative itself.
Yeah, tackling social divides not from some lofty academic view, but right there on the ground, from that raw adolescent perspective.
Exactly.
So today we're offering a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis.
Right. It's more than just a summary, although we'll touch on that too.
We're really examining how the author S.C. Hinton shapes her argument, how she builds influence, and how she earns or maybe loses your trust.
The idea is to give you the tools to read with maybe sharper insight, greater discernment.
Exactly. Thinking, should you read this book? Well, this should help. It's also, I think, really excellent guidance for aspiring writers.
Definitely. And we'd love to hear from you if you find this expanded format valuable. Your feedback really does help guide what we do next.
Absolutely. And just so you know, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation.
Powered by Google's NotebookLM. We're using it for hopefully deeper and more dynamic book analysis.
So let's set the scene briefly. The Outsiders.
Okay. We're in 1960s Oklahoma. The core conflict is between two groups. The working-class greasers.
And the wealthier socks. The socials. Perceived as privileged, maybe a bit aloof.
And through this conflict, Hinton explores some heavy themes. Class prejudice, definitely.
Loyalty.
Violence, too, and that painful loss of innocence that happens way too young sometimes.
Okay, so where do we start with the analysis? Credibility seems key.
Yes, let's start there. The foundation of trust.
Yeah.
In rhetoric, we call it ethos.
And with The Outsiders, Hinton's ethos is almost immediate.
Well, the most obvious thing is she wrote it as a teenager herself.
Ah, right. That's huge. That's the bedrock of her credibility, isn't it?
It really is. Ethos is all about the speaker or writer's authority, their right to speak on a subject. And being a teenager in 1960s Oklahoma.
It gave her that immediate, lived-in authority. She wasn't an outsider looking in, pardon the pun.
Right. She had proximity.
Yeah.
The greasers' slang, their struggles, their whole world. It rings true because, well, she was there. It feels authentic.
But it's not just her age, is it? It's also how she tells the story.
You mean through Ponyboy?
Exactly. His first-person narration. It's so candid, so direct. You feel his emotions.
He's vulnerable. Yeah, but also resilient. There's a strength there, too.
And that openness, that vulnerability, that's how she builds narrative trust with you, the reader. You identify with him, with his group.
It makes it almost impossible not to see things from the greaser's perspective.
So that covers the who and the how of the trust. What about the why? The occasion for writing it.
The occasion. Well, Hinton apparently wrote it out of frustration. She saw the real social conflicts in her own high school, in Tulsa.
So it wasn't just a story idea, it came from a real place.
Exactly. Her purpose, her main goal, seems to have been to humanize kids, like the greasers, the ones often stereotyped or dismissed.
To challenge those stereotypes.
Yes, and maybe even foster some understanding between the groups.
Yeah.
It feels like she's using the story as a tool almost, a tool for social connection.
Which brings us neatly to pathos, the appeal to emotion.
And wow, is pathos central to this book? It might be Hinton's most powerful strategy.
You really feel it, don't you? We're not just told the greasers have hard lives, we experience it alongside them.
Precisely. Pathos works by evoking specific strong emotions. Sympathy, obviously. Fear, sadness, anger sometimes.
How does she do that so effectively?
Through the characters, mainly. Diving deep into the trauma and struggles of Ponyboy, Johnny, even Dally.
Johnny's fear. You really understand it because she shows us the backstory, the beatings he endured.
Exactly. Those specific details crank up your emotional investment. The tragedy isn't abstract, it's felt through the characters.
So the emotion argues implicitly that these kids deserve understanding, protection even, regardless of their background.
Right, but it's not just emotion, is it? Because relying only on pathos can sometimes feel manipulative.
That's a great point. Which leads us to logos, the appeal to logic and structure. Does The Outsiders have that?
I think it absolutely does. It's subtle, maybe, but the logic is there. It's a tragic logic, but it's clear.
How so? It feels quite event-driven.
It is, but the events aren't random. Hinton sets up a kind of system. Prejudice dictates how the groups interact. Poverty limits choices. Loyalty demands certain actions, even violent ones.
Okay, I see that. So once those rules are established,
A plot unfolds with a kind of grim inevitability. The initial tension, the fight at the fountain, Bob's death, the rumble, the fire, the deaths. It all feels like a logical, if tragic, consequence of the initial setup.
so the structure itself makes an argument.
Yes, that structural inevitability is persuasive. She demonstrates, given these social divisions and pressures, this kind of devastation is the logical outcome.
It adds weight to the idea that the divisions themselves are the problem.
And notice how Ponyboy's personal journey mirrors that larger structure.
How do you mean?
The plot moves broadly from violence and division towards a kind of fragile understanding, right? A potential reconciliation.
Yeah, especially at the end with his writing.
And that mirrors Ponyboy's own internal journey, working through grief, gaining perspective, deciding to tell the story. The external structure matches the internal emotional arc.
That's quite sophisticated, actually. The structure reinforces the theme.
Definitely.
Okay, let's drill down a bit more. What specific rhetorical tools does Hinton use within that structure to make the ethos and pathos really land?
Good question. Because the big strategies rely on smaller choices working effectively. Diction word choice is huge here.
The way they talk.
Exactly. The informal colloquial speech. That greaser dialect, it's not just flavor, it underlines the social divide immediately.
You know who's who just by how they speak? The greaser's language feels sharp, direct, maybe a bit rough.
While the Sox, when we hear them, often sound more detached, maybe more polished. That contrast does a lot of work.
And it boosts that authenticity, that ethos we talked about earlier. It makes the greasers feel real.
Absolutely. Then there's imagery.
Ah, yes. Descriptions, comparisons.
Similes, metaphors.
Mhm.
She uses them very purposefully to build atmosphere and, again, empathy. The obvious example is the sunset.
Stay gold, Ponyboy. But also the shared sunset between Ponyboy and Cherry Valence.
Right. When Cherry the Sox says she sees the same sunset, that's a powerful rhetorical moment. It uses imagery to bridge the gap.
It visually represents a shared humanity, despite the social chasm. A moment where the structure allows for connection, not just conflict.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And related to structure, there's foreshadowing.
How does that work persuasively here?
Well, think about Johnny again. We learned about his previous trauma, the severe beating by the Sox, fairly early on. That subtly prepares us, or at least provides context, for the later violence in the park. His fear isn't random, it's deeply ingrained.
So when he reacts violently, we understand the motivation, the extreme fear driving it. Even if we don't condone the act itself, it complicates things ethically.
Exactly. It forces you, the reader, to weigh intent, fear, and consequence. It adds depth beyond simple good versus evil.
These tools really layer together effectively.
They do. And speaking of analysis and reflection, maybe this is a good moment to mention Mindful Moments.
Ah, yes. Our YouTube channel.
It offers AI book analysis, summaries, critiques, things like that, all really designed to inspire reflection and, well, rational thought.
Which ties back nicely to The Outsiders. That ability to inspire reflection is key to its lasting power, isn't it?
I think so. Hinton really succeeded in fostering empathy, challenging those stereotypes.
Why do you think it works so well, ultimately?
Because the characters are just so relatable regardless of your own background. And a storytelling is compelling, direct. It works for teens, but it resonates across generations too.
And the logical structure we discussed holds up. The tragic consequences feel earned within the world she created.
Right. She shows the devastating results when those social rules are followed to their end.
We should also touch on the ethical handling of the tough stuff, the violence, the deaths.
That's crucial.
Yeah.
It's handled with sensitivity, I think. It's not glorified. It's not there for shock value alone.
It feels purposeful to show the real cost of the conflict, to make you think.
Exactly. It aims for reflection, not exploitation.
So pulling it all together, Hinton achieves this lasting impact through a really careful blend.
Yeah, it's the intense emotion, the pathos, stemming from those vulnerable characters.
Combined with the narrative, authenticity, the ethos, grounded in her own experience, and Ponyboy's candid voice.
And underpinned by that tragic but consistent logic, the logos of the plot structure.
It's a powerful mix. She doesn't just tell a story about teenage struggles. She really interrogates these deep themes of prejudice, loyalty, what it means to be human.
Themes that, frankly, feel just as relevant now as they did back then.
It's a masterclass, really, for writers on how to build an argument within a narrative.
Absolutely. Using structure, emotion, authenticity, all working together.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener. If narrative trust, as we've seen with Ponyboy, is built through that kind of authenticity and vulnerability,
Hmm.
what current books, or maybe even movies or journalism you've encountered, use that same strategy effectively today to bridge divides, social or political?
Interesting question. What narratives are earning your trust right now by being honest about vulnerability, about difficult truths?
Something to mull over as you read and watch.
Definitely something to think about.
Okay, that about wraps up our analysis. Remember, you can click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary.
And please subscribe, share, consider purchasing via the link if you're interested in the book. And as always,
Continue to think rationally.
see the many genre-based book discussions we have at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.